Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
Hey, Brown Girl Banter.
I'm your girl, Dr. Dangerfield.
And I am Dr. Patience. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Hey, we got a guest. Y'all will notice there's somebody new at the table.
I know. Y'all are like, what? What is going on here? We haven't done guests in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, so we're so glad somebody's here with us
Yeah,
today.
we're glad somebody said yes.
And actually had time on their schedule.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's the hardest
That's
part.
the thing is give people their time because y'all know we recorded some interesting times, but it's fun.
It is. It is. So you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, but actually I'm gonna have her introduce herself.
I love it.
I'm gonna turn it over to our guest, Kevilynn Gatson.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I know her first name, but her last name, I was like, well, what's your last name? How you pronounce that? Because I'm used to just calling her by her first name.
Yes. Well, I'm Kevilynn Gatson. I'm a licensed professional counselor and I'm a transformation coach. Mm-hmm. And I'm also a postpartum doula here in Nashville, Tennessee.
That's so cool. I'm so excited you're here.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, you're so welcome.
Yes.
So tell us, like, what made you really focus on the postpartum piece for women, because we have a lot of women that are mothers that have been through pregnancies, and so you do that maternal mental health piece. Because when I put out the call, I was like, who's the expert on this? Mm-hmm. And her name came up a couple times, so I was like, this is who we need. Mm-hmm. So kind of tell us what led you on that journey and what made you select that area of expertise.
Well, I'll be honest, it wasn't anything that I chose for myself. I actually dealt with postpartum with all three of my children. Mm-hmm. The first of which was the worst bout of postpartum. Mm-hmm. And I remember just being so afraid to really open up about it. Nobody knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. You'll go to the doctor and they'll give you a little screening. You have to do your screening. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, I can't circle that. No, I can't settle that.
If you come from, especially if you're a therapist, I know if I circle that, they're going to call somebody.
Take my baby. So at the time with my first daughter, I was actually working for DCS.
Oh,
and so I was like fresh off of taking kids out the house and, all these things. I was like, I can't tell anybody. And I'm 23, my first baby. I'm not by myself, but I'm by myself in the struggle. I never heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah, okay.
And so, I'm just like, okay, I can't tell anybody. I got to suck it up. I was raised like that too. We had the cultural piece, right? Raised in Southern Arkansas, we didn't talk about our feelings. You had to push through and do what you had to do. So as I got older, had more children and things like that, I realized like we gotta start talking about this. Like this isn't something that you just can sweep under the rug. So between all of my children, I'm like, I feel like I've been in postpartum for about 14 years now. What we doing?
Okay.
And so I was like, when do you come out of this? What does this look like? And then I realized like even my parenting was different. Like I felt like I started parenting from a place of anxiousness and not a place of love, so to speak, right? So I didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
And so I was like, no, we got to talk about this. We got to figure this out. And so the more I started digging into it and realizing like, oh, okay, so maybe I had postpartum anxiety. That's what it was. Okay. So how do I get rid of this anxiety? How do I start connecting to my children? How do I become more of a present mother, right? And so it took a while, but once I really got into it and I found a local group, Homeland Heart, and did my doula training through them, and I was like, I just want to be a resource for other mothers because this was not it. Right? Like this isn't it. Yeah.
Oh, that is such a great story. I remember having my first as well, and if you look at the pictures, you can see me like looking like a deer in headlights. When the doctor, they put the baby on you, you're supposed to be I was like, what has happened here? Yeah. And my husband was just all excited. I was like, ooh. And I remember that overwhelming feeling of like anxiety and stress and kind of like, I don't know if it was just in that moment you're aware that your life is about to make a shift and this little being you're responsible for or what, but I do remember having that feeling and then thinking as a therapist, I'm like, okay, well this can't be what I'm thinking it is and kind of like strong black woman thing, right? Nobody really, you hear it and they talk about postpartum, but you're like, never me. I don't know the signs and symptoms. So the fact that you were able to kind of like really tap into that is so cool to me, and then want to share that information with others. That's good stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about, and see, I haven't experienced postpartum because I don't have never been pregnant, so I get to ask questions. So how did you figure out that it was a little bit different from like your usual general anxiety that people go through, like being a new mom, or like just that anxious to make sure that you're going to take care of your child the right way? So how did you figure out like it might be something just a little bit different about this experience?
I think it was the length of time that it lasted. So after a while, I was like, it's not getting any better. Like, what's happening? And I'm calling back home to my mom, and I'm like, Mama, when y'all coming? Y'all coming today? Can y'all come tomorrow? Like, she's like, baby, we out of work, but we'll be there. Why don't you call such and such? I'm like, no, I can't call anybody. And 2-3 months go by, and they were like, well, the baby just has colic. And I'm like, okay, but how do you get rid of colic? So I'm trying to drop stuff in the food.
Yeah, they tell you, those things.
Like, this ain't normal. Like, she won't stop crying. I'm failing. What am I doing wrong? And I'm breastfeeding. So that's a whole nother level of chaos there too, right? And so I'm doing the things, and then it's time to go back to work. And I realized, like, as stressful as my job was at the time, I felt such a sense of relief when I was at work.
Okay.
I was like, I could do work. I
Because
could do that. That's not
you
a
know
problem.
how to do that.
I knew how to do it
well.
Yeah, but coming home was like, I gotta go home again, and it's not that I didn't love my child,
right?
And I didn't love my life, and I didn't want that. I wanted my child. I wanted to be a good mother, but it was just heavy, and it was so hard to show up in that capacity most days. I could do the basic things, but it was just like, okay, it's a disconnect here. It's something not quite right. And that's when I realized, like, this isn't just baby blues type of thing. This is not just an adjustment period. We really, I'm kind of struggling here,
So how were you coping, air quotes, right? How were you coping or thought you were coping through that time when you were really struggling?
Now when you ask that question, I'm thinking back on it, I don't know that I really was. I think I was just pushing through. We learn the art of pushing through as women, right? But I don't know that I was really coping in the way that in which we should have been. There were many a days where I was like, listen, okay, I understand why they took them babies out to the break. What do? We both can get out of here. What do we need to do? And so, I remember just being deep into the church and like, let me just go to church. And the reason why church was a relief, it wasn't because I get to pray and I feel something. It was other people.
Somebody
there.
take me with
Here you go.
Okay.
Take this baby.
Yes.
Give me a break. Give me a little bit of a break. And so but then I would have such panic afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay, people see that I'm not okay. I know, let me go hide a little bit. And then I started isolating.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, we're gonna have to figure something else out. This isn't it. Yeah.
Wow. That's something.
Yeah. And you hear these stories, and the thing I think you read about the stories after something major has happened. And then it's like, well, no one saw this happen. No one saw that the mother was struggling, or was it that people were like, girl, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. And the mom is like, I don't think it's gonna be okay.
I don't think it's gonna
I need somebody, I need some help. And so for you, what, like, as you can step away from it now and kind of look back, like, what are some things that you share with other individuals now to say, hey, have you tried this, or let's talk about this, being more of a voice?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is using your voice, right? Telling people I'm not okay, and honoring that truth in that space that you're in. And even though you never had children, I wish I had pulled on the people that were closer to me that could have been a resource, right? Because other moms, they can relate to your stories and things like that, but the honest truth is they're busy too, they're tired too, right? But I can go to auntie and be like, I'm saying, you ain't gonna, can you watch this baby for me for a little bit? Or can you just come to the house and sit with me? Right? And that would have just been a huge relief just to have somebody sit with me, because when the thoughts come up or when the baby starts screaming and I get overwhelmed, what do I do? Just to have somebody else in the house who would just give me a sense of peace, and I can still do the things and I can still perform, but just having that support there would be helpful. But I think for a lot of moms, just knowing that it's okay and you're not the only one, and you have to speak up and use your voice and say, hey, this is what's going on with me. This doesn't feel right. How do I tap into the resources? So educating them about what resources are out there. Everything isn't about taking your kid away or, you know, watching over you. I know there's a big stigma with CPS and DCS being involved with families, but it can be a resource if you catch it early enough, right? But I think that's a big part of, you know, the issue and why I wanted to join the field as well and help out mothers is because it does feel like a lot of times where you don't really get the support you need until something bad happens. So how can we catch it early, like you said?
Almost like prevent it.
Yeah.
Because even, I wonder like if doctors are like aware when someone comes in and like they're, you know, like, because usually when you have a baby, you go to the doctor a little bit more frequently than like if it was just going to your usual PCP. So if doctors were more aware, the nurses were more aware of what they need to be looking out for. To say, hey, have you checked in with your support system, or have you heard of this, you know, program, or have you heard of Kevilynn?
Right, exactly.
She can help walk you through it.
Exactly, I was thinking that.
Expertise.
Yes.
So,
I think a big piece too is I love hearing you say the importance of community. I think community. And you get to choose what your community looks like, right? I think oftentimes we think we have to rely on mom to come in town, or we have to, you know, rely on our significant other or something like that. But you look back, you have a multitude of friends. There's, you know, mommy, baby yoga, you know, you might meet someone and there's just all these opportunities to connect with people and build your community. So I think I love to hear like there's this opportunity for you to reach out to people. Your mind is like, they're too busy, they don't have time. But what about auntie or our friend who doesn't have a child, or some, you know, or who might have one and you got three, like you and you. It might be okay to take the oldest and say, or take the youngest for you, right? You don't have to give all three to that person, but maybe one that's a little, you know, harder for you to manage at a time because you're trying to meet the needs of the other two. So can somebody else jump in? So I love to hear you say the importance of asking for what you need and, you know, building you a community around you to support you during those difficult times. That's really good. I do have a question, and I have to ask this because I see women, and I don't know if you do too, Lucretia, that are, before they even have the baby, are going through signs and symptoms of anxiety and depression. And do you, what would you recommend for me, even if as I'm working with them, and how I can support them before they even have the baby, but knowing that they're a first-time mom and they're starting to, or even I had another mother, she was about to have her second, and then it was like, can I love this one? And I, you know, what do I do? And how am I going to be able to manage? You know, I'm like, okay. You know, so what would you recommend for, you know, as we're seeing clients or even the women that we do see, how we can support them or what they can do to kind of not alleviate, but decrease some of that anxiety and stress?
Absolutely. Ask the questions. Ask the questions, because a lot of times they don't recognize what's happening for them. A lot of the things may be happening unconsciously, like they don't even recognize like my anxiety has increased. But you as a therapist, you've been working with them, you're like, like, you know, is this normal? Is this, you know, is this a normal level of anxiety? Or even if it is normal, could it potentially go a little bit further if we don't address it now? And so what we are seeing that a lot of mothers are being diagnosed in pregnancy, right? And so third trimester, we're starting to see an increase in anxiety and depression and things like that. And so where before doctors were kind of hesitant on putting you on medicine while you're pregnant, what we're finding now is that it's safer for you to be on medication than it is not for you to be on medication. And so you just talking to your clients about and educating them about what could come up, what are you actually experiencing. Let's dive a little bit deeper into it instead of, you know, oh, it'll be okay, because, you know, ideally we just want to keep mom calm. We don't want your blood pressure up, we don't want to scare you, we don't want to frighten you, but let's talk about it. Let's have these conversations. And so as clinicians, you know, we're trying to see the things that aren't being said, right? And so I think the bigger conversation is around, let's have these hard discussions early on, you know? Yeah.
Trying to remove some of that shame.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Normalize that it may be a part of the experience, especially if we're talking about someone who has had to go through infertility treatments and different things like that. And so what we're finding too is that a lot of moms who've experienced that and as excited as they were to engage in the process, now they're hearing, they're like, this was too much. Now I'm tired. I don't know how I'm gonna deal with the baby. I didn't have to do all this, and I haven't had my body to myself, and I'm injecting all these, you know, hormones and all these things, and now they're like, okay, this is what I got. This is what I gotta do, and they're tired and they're exhausted. And so how do we deal with those things? You know. You have experience?
I hear somebody not too long ago said, I haven't had my body to myself in the last 3 years. You know, she's like, and I was like, oh my goodness. And for her, it's like, I cannot wait till, you know, like, she's projecting a year out because she's like, you know, I gotta go through, you know, I still got something I gotta deliver, then go through like the baby still needing me for nourishment. She said, but after that, I'm gonna be so happy to get my body back. She said, and she said, it's not like, she said, it's not like, you know, the physical thing. It's just like, she said, hopefully my emotional state will slow, you know, get back to, and she said, just to have me.
Yeah, I think that, you know, and I was going to ask, this is another question because obviously this is super interesting to me. I think that there is that part about expectations, right? And how do you manage that as a postpartum, you know, doula, like, oh, I'm so excited to have this baby and this, and we're going to walk and we're going to do all these things. We're going to be so cool, you know, and we're going to have our matching outfits on. It's going to be so amazing. Y'all know y'all say that all the time. We're going to push my baby in my stroller. We're going to be at that park and we're going to be so cute. I hear y'all all the time. And so we go with these ideas, and that baby gets here, and you haven't slept. You barely have showered. You're eating on the go. You know, you can't shower, you know, by yourself. Even if you get to, you go to the bathroom, baby. It's just no, you know, this expectation of what I thought, you know, being a mother was going to be, and then the reality of that. And so, you know, as you're dealing with a new mom and you're helping her through the process of dealing with, because that can add stress and anxiety and depression to you. How do you address that, and what do you suggest for that?
Yeah, same thing, just having open dialogue about it. Really creating a safe space for them to feel comfortable to say the things that you know that you probably shouldn't say out loud, like, that you feel guilty for saying or even thinking, but getting it out of your head, right? Getting it out and it being your truth, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the reality, right? Like in this moment, I feel like this child is just, they're biting my nipple, they're doing this, and I'm tired, all this thing. Like, this ain't what I expected. And I mean, even down to the way the baby looks, right? So a lot of times mama have this expectation, oh, my baby gonna have their daddy eyes, and then they gonna have my hair, and then they gonna have hair, and they come out and they got a bald head. It's like, what happened? I thought the baby was gonna be this. What happened? And it's real, right? And so giving them that space to say the things that they're thinking, that just like, I can't say that out loud. Everybody gonna think I'm terrible. But giving them the space to say and get those things out so they can get back to what they really need to do. You know? But it has to be that safe space, because I think a lot of things go through our heads as parents, you know, as mothers, and just the expectations that we set for ourselves and that society sets for us. And that could be a lot of pressure to try to withstand all of that, especially when you can't control all the emotions that's coming back. And you know, I'm listening to you talk about your client, I'm like, girl, them emotions probably not gonna tap back in for a while. I don't know that you really come back to yourself, you know, because as a parent, your anxiety is just high in general, because you don't want anything to happen to your baby, and you feel so responsible, you know.
It shifts.
Definitely shifts.
to a different space.
Yeah.
Understanding your new normal.
Your new normal.
That's it.
It's really it. It's like this. I know I had to, and each child that you add, you get a new normal, right? So it's being able to like, oh, now I have to adjust to 2. Oh, now I have to adjust to 3. And for y'all who got 4, bless you. Gotta just, but each time your dynamics in your house change, you change, your spouse might change, something changes. And so I think I try to work with clients and say, like, acceptance. There's some form of acceptance that has to happen about your new normal. Like, if you're waiting for old you to kind of like show up,
old you is not coming back.
She gone, boo. She gone. Gotta let that go. So I think that's super important of understanding, like, this is your new normal and this is what this looks like. So if that, maybe you didn't get riled up at stuff before, but now, that laid back version of you is gone. Could you imagine?
I imagine that's what happened. I love all other people's kids. They get to go home. They get to go home. I love them. I love them. I was having a conversation yesterday with my godson. He has a 3-year-old, and he said, "She makes you mad sometimes, doesn't she?" He said, "She makes me mad." He said, "Because her mouth is smart." He said, "Did you think you would have to be talking to a 3-year-old in that mouth?" I said, "I forget sometimes that she's a 3-year-old." And he said, "Because I had to pull that same conversation on her earlier today when she wanted me to do something." And then she said, "No, don't you do it." He's like, okay, ask me in 10 minutes to do it. I was like, "No, I don't need to do it." I said, "That's exactly how." But I love it on, and being a support, because I remember when my sister had my niece, she went through, a bout of it, of just, and that whole anxiousness about making sure she wanted to be a good mom and things, and just being a support to her.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, we want you to be able to tell our viewers where they can find you and about your services, because we think this is amazing and this is a conversation that really needs to be had. So, and they need support. So,
absolutely.
Let them know.
Well, yes, you can find me on Instagram at Kevilynn Gatson and also at reflections-counseling.com. And we offer a wide range of services, therapy, individual, family therapy as well, but also the postpartum doula services, where I will come into your home and work with your family as you transition and adding baby into the household. And these services are not just for mom. This is to help the children that are already in the home adjust, to help dad adjust, everybody, the family as a whole adjust to new baby being available, being in the home. Yes.
That is so amazing. What a great, I'm so glad you came today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, BGB, we're so glad that you were able to join us. Look at us being consistent. They got to be proud of us, girl. Look at us. Thank you so much. You know where to find us. Where can they find you, Dr. Dangerfield?
On Instagram at I am Dr. Dangerfield.
You can find me at I am Dr. Patience, and you can find us both at
I am Brown Girl Banter on Instagram.
And on YouTube, you can find us at Brown Girl, one word, Banter. Check us out. Leave comments, post. If you have any questions, if you want to try to find Miss Gatson, please let us know. And we will, help you and direct you. If you need a referral, we'll try to do that too. So please reach out, like, share, comment, all the things. You all take care. Good to see you. Bye, Brown Girl Banter.
Bye, Brown Girl Banter.